Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Oh, y'all know how this goes. I mean, it speaks for itself. Y'all know what's happening. We're going to the Earth Temple. Let's do it. Let's figure out. I think we have everything we need. I think we can just show up there and, I think we've done all the prerequisites. We got Medley. That's what's important. Um, as far as I know. Let's see. Let's go to Outset for a second. Yeah, I mean, it happens every time I do a gameplay video, but it's always like weeks in between. Like I guess I was hoping to do this like these back-to-back videos, but it was just hard to make time. But it's been so nice just to have a reason to replay this game and to share it with y'all. And I've really enjoyed replaying the Wind Waker because I mean this is a game that like I probably replay it at least once a year. Um, but it's still like it's something that whenever I do play, like it hits hard, right? And it reminds me of why I do my project. It reminds me of why I fell in love with it to begin with. Just all of these reasons that I think are still there, right? It's like it hasn't aged a day, and I love that. Um, I feel like that's a really unique experience for a game to like be ageless like that, right? Um, to like it feels like it's the same thing whenever I return to it, and all of the magic of exploring this ocean and sailing between islands. Like, oh man, to me, like it still works. And there's things about it that like maybe not even everyone's into or may have aged, but like to me, are still a strength. Like this distance between islands. Like a new Zelda game would have more stuff in between the major locations. But I'm like, no, like this is part of the experience. It's sailing, right? It's charting a course between the islands, managing the wind direction, um, and it just kind of gives you a second of downtime. Like that's built into the game, that's built into the experience, and I don't mind it, right? Um, so I don't know, like is that perfect, and is that something that like in a modern Zelda game, like I appreciate that in Tears of the Kingdom, like when you build a boat, there's all these other things you have to manage, like the battery of your Zonai builds, um, the actual machines that you're using, whether you have your fans pointed in the right direction, whatever it is, like there's more to manage and there's enemies that come up along the way. Um, but also, it's like Tears of the Kingdom doesn't really take advantage of like sailing that much, and I wish it did. I wish there were more spaces for sailing in Tears of the Kingdom because I thought that was fun. Um, like you can get to Eventide Isle like through the air, but I tried getting like to it via boat my last playthrough. I just started my second playthrough of Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm really excited to talk about that on the channel. I want to do, I think, like I don't know if it's gonna be like a video essay style video, but I at least want to do a video where I'm at least talking to the camera and sharing my thoughts about what has changed on a second playthrough, because it's something that my first playthrough was very positive. I fell in love with the game, but I did have criticisms, and there's things about the second playthrough where I feel more confident about both about things that I think the game does really well and things that the game like I played the second time and I'm like, oh, that was not replayable, right? You know what I'm saying? Um, and I think that's been interesting to figure out because there's parts of the game that are super replayable. Like I feel like, and maybe I'll save this for the video. Maybe I shouldn't say too much about that. But I just want to let y'all know that these are things I'm thinking about. I'm excited to discuss on the channel. Um, and I guess just like as a Zelda fan, as a fan of this game of the Wind Waker, it's interesting to like play the new games kind of in context and then replay this and kind of see how far the series has come, but also what's changed, right? Ooh, bro, I messed up. Do 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 do. I do miss music, man. Like music was such a big part of the Zelda series. In Ocarina of Time, you had the Ocarina. Wind Waker as the Wind Waker. Twilight Princess, you can at least howl. Skyward Sword, you have the harp, which isn't as complex, right? It's just motion control, like strumming back and forth. It doesn't even matter what song you're playing, right? Um, but I miss like, I don't know, like that was such a big part of the Zelda series. My hope for the next Zelda game is that like music becomes important again. Um, at least for the story, but like that the player could interact with an instrument like the old Zelda games. Like that's something that I think, would go a long way. Because that like this game like shows that music is such an important part of the sages, right? And their seal against Ganon and their prayers to bring power to the Master Sword. That is directly linked to the music that they play. Music is spiritual in Zelda, right? In Ocarina of Time, playing music gives you spiritual power, right? It gives you control over um, the sun and the rain and time and speaks to horses, right? There's a spiritual connection through that music, through song, right? Um, there's power, the power of the royal family in Zelda's Lullaby. I mean, there's so much power that music has, and that is something that I kind of miss from, like there's so much that the Switch Zelda games do where I'm like, to me, these are almost the quintessential Zelda experiences. They almost have everything that I love about Zelda. I'm glad that I can say that. Like, I feel like bringing new fans into the series, I'm like, oh yeah, like if you like Tears of the Kingdom, then I feel like, you know, if you like its dungeons, then do I have a treat for you in other Zelda games? Like, this is a great start to like being able to recommend a bunch of other games as well. And there's things that like isn't quite equivalent, but is that the right song? Yeah, yeah, we're moving. But there's also things that like it doesn't have that I'm like, all right, like, um, that there's just no context for. And music is something that I hope the Zelda series goes back to. And there's a lot of new things, right? Like I know, like as a lot of us classic Zelda fans on YouTube are having conversations about, can we go back to the way things used to be? And I'm cool with like, let's do new things. Let's take the series in a new direction. I'd love to see the Zelda series iterate on some like parkour mechanics, for instance. I think that would be really interesting. Um, for instance. And there's a lot of other things like that where I'm like, the Zelda series like has room to keep doing new things. But there are old things that I want us to go back to as well, and I don't mind that. It's a mix of both. It's totally a mix of both, and like I'm not a traditionalist by definition, just because like I welcome both. I want it both to be new, but to respect the old, right? Which can be a hard balance. It can be hard to figure that out. Rubies, skull necklace, let's go. All right, Medley, you ready? Is she gonna be able to hop down on her own? Join me. Nice. Let's go. Let's go. Join me. Bro, I love the Earth Temple. Is this my favorite dungeon of the Wind Waker? I mean, I love all the temples, and like the Earth and Wind I think are my favorite because they pose a little bit more of a challenge, and the puzzles are a little bit more interesting than the others. Not that the other dungeons don't have interesting puzzles. I love the Tower of the Gods, everything that it offers. Um, and I love like the first dungeons, like Dragon Rouge Cavern and the Forbidden Woods, right? And those are great, like introductory like concepts as well, right? Like, but there are also things that like I think there's great verticality in like Dragon Roost. There we go. Okay, I was like, do I need Medley to do that? Okay, come into the light. There we go. Great. We're chilling. We are chilling, dog. Chilling, dog. Excuse me. But yeah, I mean, I love all the dungeons of Wind Waker, and I think I've talked about this before, but I love like the narrative reasons for the dungeons. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do I put this? Like, all of the dungeons have a purpose within the story. It's not just, oh, can you do the thing and collect the pendant and call it a day? It's like you're going into Dragon Rouge to rescue Medley, and to give Kamali his courage, right? But it's like to rescue Medley. You're going into the Forbidden Woods to rescue Makar, right? You're going into the Tower of the Gods to get the Master Sword to defeat Ganon. And maybe that's not enough, but then eventually you go into the Earth Temple to give power to the Master Sword, but to help Medley find her purpose. And same with Makar and the Wind Temple. It's about helping these characters. First you rescue them, and then in a later dungeon you help them find their purpose, right? Help, I don't know, like you give them meaning. And I think that that's just really cool. Especially rooted in the spirituality, rooted in the like, I don't know, just the themes of the games. Like you had to rescue them at first, but now here they are rescuing you, giving you power. And I think that's just cool. I like that, and I love that Tears of the Kingdom, in certain ways, like went back to that, right? Like everything that I love about those aspects of the Sage Temples in Wind Waker, like every temple in Tears of the Kingdom is a Sage Temple, right? Every temple is about helping an NPC find their purpose, right? And I think some of those are executed better than others, and some of them are executed as well as the Wind Waker, and some of them aren't. It's just a give and a take. It's a give and a take, but like I really love that, like that's the format, right? That they're like, let's do the Wind Waker Sage temples with the like the NPC companion, And like I think that works, right? Like I think that totally works. Um, how's this gonna work? Oh, excuse me. I'm like, I remember what to do in this room. I'm like, what do I do? Medley, you must disperse the fog. It is time. But yeah, I guess just like I think that format works, and I really love that about Tears of the Kingdom, and I love the extra abilities, right? Like when you like, I don't know, like you're not necessarily taking control of uh, Ryu or Yunobo or whatever, um, but like they are giving you power and they're joining you, and it's important that they join you through the dungeon. I think that that's cool, and they can lend you their power. And I love that that persists throughout the game because that's something that I'm like in Wind Waker. Like Medley doesn't necessarily isn't super powerful, but like it's nice to have a companion, and it's easy to wish that she joined you for more of the game, right? And she doesn't, right? It's just this one dungeon. So I like that in Tears of the Kingdom, the sages like after you meet them, like they're with you through the rest of the game, and I just think that's really cool. Um, so it's like there are things that iterating on the Sage Temple format in like a future game, like I think that Tears of the Kingdom like does a good stab, and just like I recognize as a Wind Waker fan that like that it is like taking notes, right? And I guess that's the thing is like it's easy to pit the games against each other and be like these new games are like, you know, like the creators have totally forgotten the old games, and I'm like I don't think that's true. You know, I think it's so clear that they're taking notes from my favorite games in the series, from what Wind Waker did well, from what Ocarina of Time did well, and they're aware of that. And I think they listen to feedback as well. I think if we're vocal as well about the things that we don't like in Tears of the Kingdom, I think the next Zelda game will address those notes. Um, I don't think it'll make the same mistakes. I expect that it will make all new mistakes, but like that's the goal, right? Like that's my hope is that you know they try new things and get new things wrong. So I guess that's the thing is like I don't want Zelda to be stagnant. I do want it to remember what it did well, but I don't want it to be stagnant. Um, and that's my stance. And I think that that's important to vocalize on this channel. And maybe I say that a lot, but I think that that's important. It's just like because I don't know, like with the platform I have, I want to use my voice. Not that I think Nintendo is watching my videos, but with any hope that anyone is, or that I can have a voice in the conversation and be a part of that zeitgeist at all. I think it's important to use my platform to say like, hey, you know, if I can voice to Nintendo, um, my criticisms of their new Zelda games and what I want for the future, I think that's all important to say. But also like what I enjoy, right? And to voice that there's so much that I enjoy and appreciate and think they do well. And so I just want to make sure that I say that. Because I think that that's all important. And I think that that's true in context for the movie as well. Man, I got to start talking about the movie more on this channel just because that's something that I want to make sure. I don't know that enough people have done videos like saying, what do we want from the Zelda movie? And I think that's something that like I feel like I have a lot of ideas and like a clear vision as a filmmaker, right? Like I do short films, go to my main channel to watch those, check those out. But it's like I have a perspective on writing, on storytelling, and what I want out of a Zelda movie. And like obviously like there would be such a specific thing that I would want that I'm okay if the Zelda movie isn't the movie I would have made. Like I'm okay with that, and I expect it to be different. Like there's things that like I have in mind that I would want the Zelda movie to do, and I'm okay that it's not going to do exactly those things. I just want it to be good. Um, and there are things that I think like a good Zelda movie would do. Did she follow me? Medley. Do I got to do everything myself? But yeah, I guess I just want to talk about that on the channel more, just to quantify it, so that if there's any like conversation on YouTube about the Nintendo like Zelda movie produced by Sony, like I want there to be like a conversation happening there, right? I want there to be something that executives could potentially listen to. Not that they'll find my video specifically, but I would love to be the start of a conversation, or at least be able to continue a conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not necessarily about are they going to watch my videos, but it's about like can I get like the ball rolling on a YouTube conversation about that in general, and hope that the conversation is like intelligent, right? And I guess just to you know the horse in the room, the elephant in the room. I'm like, what's the expression? But it's like it is produced by Sony. We know Avi Arad's involved, and that is either great news or very scary news. And that's the thing is like just Sony's like their superhero movie track record they've made some of the worst superhero movies and some of the best. That's just how it goes. Like my favorite superhero movies, period, are the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, co-produced by Avi Arad, made under Sony. So it's like it's possible that like they've made some of my favorite superhero movies. Like I love those Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and if there's any hope that the Zelda movie can be as good as that, then we're eating well as Zelda fans. But they've also made Morbius and Madam Web, right? So it's inconsistent. And I don't want the Zelda movie to be like Morbius. God forbid. So I don't know. It's like I want to have hope. And like I love like the Spider-Verse movies as well. Like those were produced under Sony, but like Sony that's just the producer, right? And so it's just clear that they can do good, they can do bad, and I'm hopeful that if they get the right people on board, make sure that it's developed with passion in mind, then I think we can get something solid. Hope that is good, right? So I want to be optimistic, and it's also possible that it might be somewhere in between, that it's not a masterpiece, right? But it's also not terrible, and that's really what I'm expecting. I'm not expecting Shakespeare, because there's things that I think the Zelda like series has the potential to set up some of the best stories. Like I love those Zelda stories, so I think the movies could be masterpieces. But like I'm not expecting that, right? Like I'm not expecting like something like with the quality of like my favorite movies or stories. But I do want like a good movie, right? And I think that it definitely has the potential to be great. Is how I feel. So that's where I'm at. What am I doing? Can I toss Medley from here? I'm gonna try. I'm gonna toss her. You gotta toss her. Okay, excuse me. Here we go. I did it. But yeah, I guess just like I want those movies to be solid. I want them to be better than your typical like schlock that comes out of movie theaters these days. Like I don't want like MCU quality movies. I want something better with integrity that's creative, right? And I think that that's possible. It just we'll see. I want to talk more about like what does that look like? What are the specifics of that? Like what would producing that Zelda movie look like? What are other movies to look to compare it to? Like as a Zelda fan, like what do I want? And there's a lot of freedom there, right? Like there's things about the story specifically that I'm like, they can go in whatever direction they want to go in, right? And I'm not picky about like, do they want to tell a story like Twilight Princess or Breath of the Wild or Ocarina of Time? And even if they base it like loosely off of Ocarina of Time, does that mean like following the adventures of adult Link, or does that mean it'll be like young Link throughout most of the film? Because I think that's like they could take that route. Like Link could be a kid for the whole movie, and I think that would still be like powerful and still like would iterate well upon like Zelda's take on like heroism and its philosophy, right? So it's like I don't want to take for granted any story details that I'm just assuming. But anyway, I think it's about time to wrap up the video. Y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Join me in the next one for The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. That's all I got. Without further ado, I'll let you go. As always, you can support me as a creator by becoming a member on Patreon. There you'll get access to all kinds of exclusive behind-the-scenes content like in-progress outlines, scripts, storyboards, rough cuts, and even soundtracks for my newest films. By becoming a member, you'll also be thanked in the credits for any film I finish during your membership. You can also support me by streaming my music. I compose all of the scores for my own short films, and you can listen to those soundtracks on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you listen to music. Just look up Joe Kendrick. That's JoeKendrick. Y'all have a wonderful day, and without further ado, I'll let you go.